All right, good morning, everybody. Hi. How's your attention span? Um, or how much stuff do you need to occupy yourself to not feel uncomfortable? How small or how big is that amount of stimulus that you need to not feel whatever's underneath your activity? Um, Most of the time, whatever you're trying not to feel. I mean, let's be honest. Um, but this comes across in lots of ways, and starting out really from a young age. These days, huge problem, I would say, because we need so much stimulus constantly, and that's because we learned, I assume it's because we learned to need so much stimulation constantly, or else we freak out. We never learned to have less stuff going on rather than more. So it's really hard for us to freaking just focus on one thing. I mean, this relates for sure to like things like ADHD, attention deficit, hyperactivity, disorder. Something wrong here. But it just that describes so many people. I mean, it could take many forms. I think so many different levels. Like, are you a good listener? Can you listen to somebody for more than like 10 seconds before needing something else? This is where it really impacts like relationships, obviously. Like, it's fine, not really fine, but when you're watching the TV and it bores you and so you whip out your phone real quick, you're not like hurting anybody except yourself maybe. But when you're talking to someone and you cannot listen to them and your brain's going like this, it hurts your relationships because that person's not going to feel listened to, respected, whatever else. Wow, that cat is really eating. Do you hear that sound? Really going for it. Speaking of interruptions, I mean, this is for real, and you can measure it. I've done some videos, more than one, about just trying to sit there and do nothing. This is the the essence of it. The way that you can really come into contact with this feeling is to try to do nothing. To sit there and see what your mind does. See what your body does when you're sitting there. AKA, you have very little stimulation compared to what you usually have. Okay, you still do have stimulus here. You have a stimulus there. You got this all over the place. But you can even close your eyes. That takes away some more. See what you feel it in your body, but also what your mind does. It will freak out. That's the point of all this stimulation. To stop it from doing that, to give it something to gnaw on. Really, another way of putting it is, how hungry is your mind? How hungry is this for external juice? If it's not very hungry, you will have a calmer vibe immediately. I mean, that's just gonna be your vibe. You don't need as much. You're not as needy. It has such such an energy to it. You can sense it in people often. It's in the way they talk. It's in the way they move. It's in everything. This need for more stuff. Not physical stuff, but this stuff. And how jittery we get when we're not getting that. I mean, it's like a drug. I mean, doesn't this sound like a drug? Like you start getting jittery if you don't have your drug. Start shaking your leg, you do that shaky shake. Tapping your foot. Shake, 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 shake. You know, and we think that like people are born like this. Maybe they are a little bit. But does our current like, you know, technology driven society encourage this? Teach this? Obviously, yes. Swipey swipe. Next thing, next thing, next thing. I mean, you know, it's hard to even watch like a YouTube video that's more than 2 minutes long. So long, so boring. It's the same thing. Oh my god. Like, where's my next? Something different, something new. It's all the same, so boring. I mean, boredom. Same thing. Boredom. I mean, the meaning of everything is lost. There's almost no meaning in anything. It's just like these fleeting, flitting things that are happening. Stimuli hitting your stuff. Nothing means anything. You just go on to the next thing. It starts to sound really kind of awful. It really does. And like, of course, the thing that battles that is just the exact opposite. You can work on it. You can work on being slow. You can strengthen these muscles. If we're trained from very young in a certain way, of course it gets really hard as we get older to train the opposite muscles, just like physically. Very freaking hard. And you can see people struggle, you can see people taking drugs to try to like do something about this. But I would say it's, let's just say, relatively widespread in the population, this issue. You need more food for your brain, your mind, constantly. And our phones, obviously, give us as much as we want. And that is scary as hell. It's like an addict walking around with just never-ending bag of their drug of choice right here. Like, what do you think they're going to do? This is an addict. What do you think they're going to do? It's like an alcoholic with, you know, the whiskey strapped to their belt. What do you think they're going to do? They're just going to let it sit there? A little depressing, maybe. But of course you can do something about it. Of course there is like a little bit of a backlash to it already. And there probably will be more. The more harm it does. But it's hard to stop. Very hard. Calming down. Doing less. Freaking talking slower. It like grates on us at this point. We want the fastest thing possible right now, and we can't handle the same thing for very long. Yikes. It's kind of like the opposite of what we need. So it takes a massive amount of teaching or discipline or whatever to make some kind of change. Very hard. So I hope this Sunday, the day of rest, you are finding some time away from whatever your mind drugs might be, and that it's a peaceful day for you. Lots of love. Ciao.